Welcome to You, Me, Empathy, a safe place for leading with your heart. Hey, thanks for being here. You, Me, Empathy is the official podcast of the Feely Human Collective, a collaborative mental health community designed to empower each of us to grow our capacity for empathy, vulnerability, and emotional wayfinding. Just a friendly reminder that this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. No one is just a silly boy with a feely heart. You can support the show by leaving a review in Apple Podcasts, following us on social media at Yumi Empathy and Feely Human, and joining the Feely Human Collective community at feelyhuman.co. And now your host, Known Wells.
Hello, Feely Humans! Welcome to another episode of Yumi Empathy. This is episode 133. My name is Known Wells. Thanks for being here. This is the first episode back in about a month. I took the month of June off from recording and releasing new episodes, and I really needed the rest and the break, and so thank you for being patient. We have a wonderful episode today with my friend Shereen. We talk about being kind to ourselves so we can be kind to others. We also talk about, this was recorded back in April, so we talk about the early days of the pandemic, self-care during quarantine, feeling like we're too emotional. Shereen talks about her queerness, her sexual identity, and growing up in a Muslim family. We talk about doing mushrooms. We talk about using comedy to cope with darkness. We talk about being middle children and so many other things. Shereen is a delight and a very talented human being who does film, and she writes. She has a poetry book, and she has a podcast called Ethnically Ambiguous. And all of those links are in the show notes over at feelyhuman.co. Before we get to the episode, though, I just wanted to, first, a couple of things. I wanted to read a couple of new reviews. These came in just about a week or so ago. This one is from Lucky Ducky S. And you too can leave a review if you go to Apple Podcasts and search for Yumi Empathy and leave a review. 5 stars is my favorite number, but you be honest, that's cool. This is Lucky Ducky S. Yumi and Happy Tears is the name of the review. This person says, I enjoyed Yumi Empathy's latest episode featuring Amber Cole as a guest. It was wonderful to hear an empathetic voice speaking on Black Lives Matter and how anti-racists can use their platform voices to dismantle microaggressions and overt styles of racism. The guest spoke so gracefully about her mother's struggles with mental health. Listening to Amber speak about her mother helped me to recenter my own ideas about the substance using adults in my own family. I am so thankful for the work Known is doing. I imagine that each episode creates opportunities for sound reflection. I am definitely a part of this feely human world. Well, thank you, Lucky Duck S, for that lovely review. And if you haven't, the episode she's referencing is episode 132, the one just before this with the wonderful Amber Cole. And that's the one that just came out at the beginning of June. Anyways, thank you for leaving those reviews. Please, if you can, it's a free way to support the show. If you can, leave a review in Apple Podcasts. It does help out. The more reviews and downloads, the more potential eyes on, well, eyes. I don't know if eyes do much for podcasting, but ears do. The more potential ears on this podcast. So thank you for that. And I guess I'll just remind you that lots of great things going on over at the Feely Human Collective. Again, that's feelyhuman.co, feelyhuman.co. There is a free workshop called Feely Human 101 that I created. It's a 2-week online workshop about empathy and vulnerability and emotional wayfinding. It's free, and you can sign up, and I built it, and I love it, and I hope you love it too. So you can sign up for that. There's also some great stories in the journal right now. Just this morning, as of this recording, Janani, I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. Janani Chandra Rao wrote this wonderful piece called Am I Enough? And my friend Tristan wrote a piece called Feel Human Gave Me Life. And Z. Zielinski wrote Why It's Easier for Me to Talk About My Mental Health Than It Is to Talk About My Muscular Dystrophy. Just some great stories right now in the Feel Human Journal. And you can also write in the journal. It's open. You can go and apply and submit your writing. So if you go to feelyhuman.co, and you'll see that there. What else is going on in Feel Human Land? I'm also looking for more workshop collaborators and art collaborators. We also have a book club going on now that just started just a couple of days ago. We're reading The Deepest Well by Nadine Burke-Harris, who is the, what is she? She is the California Surgeon General. An amazing mind, and I'm really looking forward to reading that book. It's all about the ACE studies on children. So looking forward to that. Yes, and the one that's sort of easy way to support Feeling Human and this podcast, because this podcast is part of Feeling Human, is to go to the shop and buy some pins, buy some T-shirts, buy some stickers. Would love to see some more shopping, some more Feeling Humans out in the world buying Feeling Human stuff. But no fret, no pressure. I'm blathering on. It's my first intro recording in over a month, so I'm a little rusty. But I just wanted to thank you for being here. You guys are the best. I really appreciate you. Oh, and before we go, sorry, you probably noticed a little bit of a different intro that preceded this little intro from my dear sweet friend John Peters, who is married to my also dear sweet friend Mindy. They live in Minnesota. They have a sweet little boy named Fitzgerald, and some cats, Mew, Tigger, Tigger, and Spot. And John created the previous one and created this other one to align with, the changes now that, Feel Human is live. And anyways, just wanted to thank John for that. It's wonderful. It's lovely. I hope you love it too. Let's get into this episode, shall we? This is episode, again, 133 with my lovely friend Shereen Lani Younes on being kind to ourselves so we can be kind to others. Enjoy.
La la la, you, me, empathy, yeah, la la la.
Welcome to You, Me, Empathy, a podcast about exploring the struggles we face in our day-to-day lives as humans trying to get by on this wondrous and overwhelming pale blue dot. The intent of You, Me, Empathy is to talk openly, without judgment, about our mental health, our neuroses, our shared anxieties and worries, to create a dialogue that is vulnerable and deeply human and empathetic, and to share that dialogue with others, to inspire emotional and cognitive collaboration and insight, so we can, hand in hand, break down the stigma that make us feel shame and guilt for struggling, for feeling our feelings, for being feely humans. You, Me, Empathy is a safe, friendly space designed to inspire the beauty in each of us. Today, I am so grateful to be reconnecting in the midst of a pandemic over Skype with director, filmmaker, poet, and co-host of the Ethnically Ambiguous podcast, Shereen. Hello, Shereen.
Hello, Known.
How's it going?
It's going all right considering the state of the world, just talking to you by myself from my apartment. where I've been for what feels like an eternity. But yeah, it's all right. You know, I just trying my best to be kind to myself and take it day by day. I will admit that last night I went into a bit of a frenzy and rearranged my entire living room. Again, I'm by myself, so it was a bit of a feat because I have this giant bookshelf, but I made a little space for myself, like a bigger space to do some workouts in and some yoga. So, yeah, that's been a good part of my attempt at self-care during this time, just trying to move my body in little ways.
Yeah, I relate to that. And it's been, we're not far from each other, but it's been very rainy too, which has been hard for me as someone who likes to move my body in ways that are outside.
Yeah, same. I mean, I love going on walks. I love going on hikes. Obviously, we can't do hikes anymore. Well, I don't know if it's obvious, but in LA anyway, they closed down a bunch of, or most, or if not all of the parks and trails and stuff. I personally love the rain. This is like objectively maybe my favorite weather. So it's a little strange that, I mean, like I like it. But I think there's a certain somberness to it this time because it's almost as if like the weather is reading the room of the entire world. And it's like, yeah, you're going through something.
It's a reflection
here you go.
Of our hearts.
Yeah, exactly. But I do like the rain, and especially in California, I know that we need it and stuff. And I'm a big plant person. Actually, no, I don't have any living plants of my own. I guess what I mean by that is that like I like to eat plants. So maybe it's the opposite of that. But like I like
you like to not keep them alive, you like to kill them by consuming them.
Yeah, I don't like the responsibility of the upkeep of them. That's too much responsibility. I have very bad commitment issues, and the responsibility of any living thing overwhelms me. But I like the idea that the rain is helping nature and stuff. And also, like, it is, I think you're right that during this time, especially because going on walks is maybe like the one time someone is able to, like, I don't know, get out of their apartment now. So it does make it a little, I don't know, unfortunate that it's raining now, but it always kind of rains in April showers, May flowers, the whole thing. So it'll come to an end and spring will be beautiful. And on the walks that I have been going on, which I try to go on relatively often, it's a little nice. It's nice to remember like that spring is here because the trees are blooming. There's flowers everywhere. And I kind of forget that when I'm inside. Like I kind of forget like the time, the weather and the time and the season, but the world is just continuing to go and we just have to fucking go with it for a while. Can I cuss on this, by the way?
All language is valid, Shereen.
Okay, I just said it without realizing. I don't really, yeah.
No, that's good. That's good. All language is valid.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I just like I'm wondering for you as someone who you mentioned you're alone in your apartment. How have you been dealing with just trying to stay connected with the people you love?
Well,
friends and otherwise.
I have to admit that even before all this started, I'm not the best at keeping in touch. My closest friends know this about me. They just know they'll like fall off the grid every once in a while. I'm just really bad at maintaining contact. So I feel like now I've been connecting with people more digitally, which is refreshing because I'm not someone that enjoys texting. I find texting kind of exhausting. So I've been doing a lot of like FaceTime calls with my family, which has been really nice. I turned 30 the beginning of this month, so we had like a family little birthday FaceTime. A lot of my friends messaged me that day. It's been like nice to connect in different ways that I previously found a little overwhelming. But I will still admit that like I'm not the best at keeping in touch. Like I don't really there can be days that go by that I don't really talk to anybody. And that's not really like a good thing. I just sometimes feel I don't know, I don't want to because I know everyone's going through their own version of this trauma because it is kind of like a collective trauma that we're all experiencing.
Right.
And I don't really want to feel like I'm burdening anybody. And if I can handle it myself, I kind of want to do it myself. But there have been many times in the past couple weeks, especially leading up to and on my birthday, that I reached out to friends because the thought of being alone and turning 30 was so overwhelming to me for some reason. But yeah, I've been just doing my best at reminding people that I care about them, and I can't deny that it's a little overwhelming to me to be bombarded by people sometimes. Not bombarded. Like, it's not a bad thing. I just think, like, I kind of feel like on my birthday, for example, I was feeling guilty for not responding to everyone right away and like making them wait. And I didn't like that feeling of the obligation of like needing to respond all the time. I think that's what I don't like about digital contact, is like there's a underlying sense of obligation that like I need to get back to someone.
Yeah.
And I think during this time in particular, like I have no excuse. Like I'm just in my apartment. Like, of course I have to get back to them, but I have to remember that these people care about me. And like, obviously my depressed and anxious brain will turn it on its head and like make me isolate myself. But yeah, I just try my best to like reach out when I need help and respond when people are incoming with their concerns or checking in on me. I think the people that I've been the people that I've been talking to the most are probably my sisters and my mom and my dad. And then maybe like 2 or 3 really close friends. But even so, it's really, I don't know. It's not the easiest thing for me to keep in touch. And this has been an interesting lesson in that, because everyone is kind of dealing with the same thing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I totally relate to that. Actually, my wife Jessica and I were just talking about this yesterday. I was feeling kind of there were a couple of guests, I won't name names, but there were a couple of guests on the podcast who I love and were such great guests, and I've been wanting to keep in touch with them, and I just haven't heard anything from them, and the sort of self-hating, sort of low self-esteem person in me wants to sort of like throw up my arms. It's like they hate me, they don't love me, they don't care about me, they don't care about what I'm doing. And the reality is, like, now more than ever, but also anytime, like, they're probably just going through something, or they can't keep up with the stress of, like you said, the digital connection, that expectation of like response. And I think to your point, I think it's probably okay to give people a little space and kindness and not, expect everyone to respond all of the time. And I think that's okay.
I think so too. One of my friends said that I said I was sorry for flaking or something, and their response was to the effect of like, flaking right now is more acceptable than ever. And I think it's very true, because I don't know, like I have so many friends. I just have a lot of friends in like the entertainment industry and like comedians and filmmakers and stuff, and a good portion of them are like going live on Instagram or like making content on Twitter or whatever and making shorts. And the last thing I want to do is like jump on like a giant Zoom brunch or like, I mean, then again, I did that yesterday. It was actually very enjoyable. So I'm trying to do it more, because I remind myself when I'm doing it that it's really fun and like I can make people laugh and like I'm a fun person to be around. But leading up to it, like seeing everyone's like Zoom screen grabs or whatever, I'm just like, it gets really overwhelming for me that people are like so on the ball. like I feel even extra.
Are you doing a pairing thing? Sorry. Are you doing like a comparing thing? Yeah.
I don't know if it's comparing more so. I guess it is. I guess there is an element of comparison, and I don't like that about myself. I think I do that pretty often. But I guess I've just been feeling, as a creative person, I've been feeling like extremely uninspired and unfulfilled and unproductive. And I think it feels, because I already had a bad time reaching out in the past, it feels like it's all catching up to me because now it's like, well, this is what you wanted kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, just you have to sit with yourself, and it's been okay. Like, I've had my good days, I've had my bad days. I'm a pretty solitary person by nature, I think I've realized. I'm like independent to a fault. That's something I've always said about myself. But yeah, I think what has helped me is just kind of like taking time away from social media and just either losing myself in like a funny show. Like, I'm watching Seinfeld for the very first time, which has been fun for me because it's like a little bit, it's like it's obviously dated, but like it's a time that like was just so different than this. And I had never seen it before. And it's just been nice to kind of escape into like the early 90s for a second. Because
I relate to the, like, I mean, I'm an introvert. I relate to like needing to be alone at times, but the thing that I've learned over time is that really I've grown the most as a person and have found the most insight and perspective through connection with others, not by myself. As much as I'd like to believe I'm like this lone wolf, right? Mm-hmm. Like the reality is that we grow in connection with others.
I agree with you, actually. I think that's completely true. And the friendships that have affected me the most are the ones that have really grown with me. But I think because I'm experiencing like single quarantine, I'm trying to like give credit to myself, I suppose, for being like single during this time, because there's so many people that are like quarantining with their partners and stuff. And I think it would be really, right. I can't deny that I think it would be nice to have something to hold on to, like a connection and a person to hold on to during this time. Like literally, like I don't even remember the last time I had a hug. So that's kind of sad to me, like, because I really enjoy connection and stuff in that way. But, so I think to kind of forget, like in my attempt to be forgiving to myself and have compassion for myself, I'll rationalize that like I'm strong and I'm independent and everything, and I can reach out for a friendship connection whenever I have the whenever I need to. But especially like turning 30, I don't know what it was about turning 30 as like a single woman, but I think there's like a lot of expectations around, I don't know, reaching this decade, and like so many of my friends have found like partners, or my sister's engaged or whatever. It's just, I think this self-isolation kind of like emphasized that how single I was. Like I would jump on like calls or like FaceTimes, for example, and I was on one with my two cousins. One of them is in Canada, one of them is in Germany, and then my sister was on the call as well, and she was in Long Beach, and we were all Skyping, and at one point all their partners entered the frame, and I realized like no one's gonna enter the frame for me. Like no one's gonna, like, it was just like this really weird visual of like everyone having a person, and then like me still like chiming in my echoey, empty apartment. And there was something about that visual that kind of got to me, and I almost started crying on the call. And I think like everyone's emotions are a little bit on edge during this time. But I think to kind of like be forgiving to myself when I after that moment, I have to remind myself that like I'm self-sufficient and I'm okay, and like this is like my very best partner is myself. And so while I do agree that I've grown so much through other people, instead I think I would get really sad thinking about how much I want to grow. I kind of wish I've had a little bit more growth with a partner. So instead of feeling sad about that, I'll just continue to do like my yoga every morning or whatever. So I'm just trying to be the best partner to myself that I can during this time, I suppose is what I'm trying to say, a long story short.
And I think that's beautiful. And I didn't bring the grow and connection with others thing up to I don't know, to make you feel like more alone or something. I think it's got to be so hard going through this now, being a single person or unattached or whatever. Like, I think that's got to be so hard. And I think it's courageous of you to claim your, you know, your independence in this time and say like, look, because you're right. Like the truth, Shereen, is that we have to be our own best advocates first. Like I've learned that in my relationship. When I met Jessica, I was a fucking mess, and she's like, go to therapy or this is not going to work. And and it's true. Like we grow in connections with others, but we also have to like first figure our shit out, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't take what you were saying as even like a romantic thing. It just kind of like reminded me of how I felt. Yeah. But no, I think because I do agree with you. I do agree that connection can give us growth, and that's platonic and otherwise, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm so grateful that I have so many friends that I love and my family that I love. And it kind of like, my birthday was a good reminder of that for me. Just like all the calls and messages that I got on my birthday were really nice, like to receive when I was by myself. And so that was nice. And I kind of went a little bit overboard. Like I was so intent on making my 30th like an event for some reason. So I like drove out to the Angeles National Forest, even though all the trails were closed. I kind of just like parked my car on the mountain and kind of started walking around, took some shrooms, had a little trip, if a literal and mind trip. And I love psychedelics. I think they're very like mind expansive opportunity, and I always learn something from them. And there was a moment on my birthday for like maybe 2 hours straight that I just like sobbed, like very like heaving cries. And it was like the release that I think I needed, because I haven't like cried that much in a very long time. Even with this quarantine, I'll like maybe shed a tear here and there. But on my birthday, it was just the release I was waiting for. And after I like ate something and sobered up, and I was ready to reach out to people again, because I kind of like turned my phone off. And I was filled with so much joy and gratitude, and just reminding myself of the connections that I've fostered and made my entire life. They're still there, even though I can't physically be around them. And
absolutely,
they accept me and they love me. And it was just nice to be kind of, and I think the shrooms have this effect of like, I don't know, emphasizing these emotions at times. And so it was lovely. I think, I would recommend reaching out to people, even if it seems daunting at first, because that always happens to me. It always feels a little bit daunting. And then as soon as I'm like in it, I'm reminded like, oh, I love this person. Like I love connection, and I love myself around this person. And like yesterday during this like digital brunch, I like made my friends laugh. And I know that sounds really silly, but like I haven't done that in a while. Like I haven't like been around people to like crack a joke or like make someone laugh in like a long time. And I was like, I reminded myself of like an element of my personality that like I really love, you know? So it was just like this a very like nice moment, and a moment that would never, I can't even like, it's weird to have these moments, I guess I should say. And sorry I keep rambling. You're the first human I've talked to today.
Don't be sorry. I love listening, and you're right. You're totally right. We're mirrors for each other, right? Like we show each other our gifts, right? Because we as humans are so self-defeating. You know, we often squash them or say, you know, especially when we're in a vacuum and we're in stressful times, we're like, we forget about them. We forget that we're funny. We forget that we, you know, have these sides of ourselves that can be a light for others, which is great. And the image you described, you know, going out to the forest and taking shrooms and sobbing sounds truly lovely. And I want to do that. That sounds great.
I would recommend it. I'm a huge advocate for shrooms.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, in all transparency, I have never done it. I've smoked a lot of weed and things like that, but I don't know. I have an anxiety about it, but I do have some, and I've been sort of gearing up emotionally and mentally to try to do some microdosing.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a huge. I've never been the biggest weed smoker. I do it socially, but I've always been on the times that I've enjoyed weed aren't as much as the times that I've kind of gotten too in my head. So I always kind of just like stick to either CBD or like weed chocolate is okay for me sometimes, maybe because I like chocolate, but but shrooms, whenever you're ready, I think they're a really good tool, especially for people that have experienced depression. I really enjoy microdosing. And shrooms in general, like having trips and also dosing. I think, they're really, it's a helpful way just to see how your mind can. I mean, I don't really know how to describe it, but I would recommend just like whenever you're ready to just see how you feel, because I think they just remind me of how grateful I am and how I just feel good. They make me feel good and energized. And there are so many studies that are going around about the use of psychedelics with depression and anxiety and mental health disorders. And so
Right.
I'm a huge advocate of at least seeing if it works for you. And if not, go ahead, like just ignore it for the rest of your life. But especially because so many people are advocates of like marijuana use for their own anxieties and stuff. I think
Right.
if that hasn't worked for you, like it doesn't really work for me. I found that an occasional shroom trip or an occasional microdose will like kind of center me and ground me, and it sounds like I do them all the time, and I really don't do them that often, but but I just think that every time I have done them has been a very expansive journey and a lesson. And maybe this is only for me, but I always cry whenever I do any psychedelic, like even acid. I always cry, and I think it's because I have like a very deep emotional reservoir, and something about psychedelics like kind of like taps it, and I'm just like a flood. And I kind of steer away from the word empath sometimes because it's a little lofty, and I don't want people to get the wrong idea, but I do identify with a lot of the aspects of like the word empath. And I think something about psychedelics kind of like lets me experience them without any inhibition, like all my emotions. Because I'm very guarded, and I'm very careful with my emotions at most, like usually. So I don't know. Sorry, that was a long tangent about drugs, everybody.
No, I love all these long tangents. They make me happy. It will happen, Shereen. I
no
fully
pressure,
intend to
man.
make
No
it happen
pressure. No pressure. Whenever you're ready.
Yeah. Shereen, you're a universally renowned mushroom pusher.
Oh, no.
We have on the podcast today. I'm just kidding. But what you say is so true from what I've heard from people telling me, friends, and then reading research and books about it. It's certainly an important part of the conversation and the future of psychotherapy. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And then the other aspect, the experiential aspect of it, just being this thing that allows us to maybe, feel grounded, to use your words, to feel more connected, to maybe, find other perspective that, that otherwise we're sort of bogged down in,
Yeah.
So a couple of things.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get to your sort of like, you keep talking about your 30th birthday and what that means to you, but I'm curious, like what you just said before about how these experiences, trip experiences, sort of allows you to tap into your big emotional well, and otherwise feeling maybe guarded. Can we explore that? Like, why do you feel like you're guarded in your non-trip life?
I mean, I think a lot of kids can relate to growing up and maybe being called sensitive a lot. I was always called sensitive growing up. I'm the middle child,
Yeah,
and
same.
I was very rebellious.
same.
Oh, really? Yeah. Middle child syndrome
Yeah,
is very
yeah.
real for me. If anyone's curious what that is, just look it up, and it's me to a T. I was very rebellious. My older sister was kind of like the golden child, and just did everything she was supposed to. She's literally a doctor now, and she's engaged, and she's just really flourishing in all the right ways as far as my parents are concerned. But growing up, I didn't really relate to all the things I was supposed to want, I think, and I rebelled pretty hard as far as like my sheltered life is concerned. And so I was just very emotional all the time, and I was called sensitive often, and so and I have a very bad temper. I will admit that. Especially growing up, I was kind of like an angrier kid. I've kind of toned it down now somehow. I'm not sure how, but I do have like flare-ups. But I think I just couldn't handle my emotions.
Is the anger related to depression?
I think so. I just think growing up, I didn't understand why I was feeling the way I was, and that would turn into anger.
Of course. Yeah.
And especially because like I was maybe feeling controlled because you're like a teenager and you're angsty, and I directed all of that into poetry or into creative stuff. I was really into mixed media and poetry. I started writing poetry when I was like a preteen, and a lot of it was like intensely angsty and like just a way for me to kind of like like have a catharsis.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think like growing up and thinking that I was too emotional, I started toning it down. And for me, that meant being cold and distant and guarded. And I think like looking back, I really loved robots, and I still love robots. Like I have like a robot piggy bank in my apartment, but like I think I low key like related to being a robot because I was like, this is like, I need to be a robot. I have to be cold and guarded and distant, and this is how I will maintain like being a human. Like I have to pretend to be a human, and I will be okay. Like I was somewhere in the middle of a robot and an alien, I think, at all times, and just trying to understand humanity and study them and like fit in. Which sounds insane, but like that's literally what I felt like, and I still feel like that now. And sorry, maybe I shouldn't say the word insane. I think it's like I'm trying to stop saying it because I think it might be insensitive. But
no, that's okay. I get it.
But yeah, I just felt a little bit like strange in the world, and I started taking antidepressants when I was 17. I was a minor, and my parents kind of didn't know what to do because they were really concerned and frustrated, and I was also dealing with an eating disorder, and I hated that they took me to a psychiatrist. I really, really despised it. I felt like I didn't want to I just didn't want to take any pills. I just didn't want to feel like I was being controlled. And so I took like literally, I feel like 70% of depression, like the brands and everything from like 17 till like 28, 29. And I just have I've on and off have been dealing with depression and anxiety, and I've been diagnosed with like different kinds of disorders and stuff like that. Mostly like major depression and anxiety. But I also had I also had a psychiatrist diagnose me with like OCD tendencies, and so one of them was convinced that it was a wrong diagnosis and I might have bipolar, but like for the most part, I just believe I have like a very bad case of depression and anxiety, and like sprinkled in just some like manic / like OCD issues. But I think that's why I kind of was so frustrated with the psychiatric world, because I had dealt with it for so long and I couldn't find someone that I trusted. And when I did trust them, like it just wasn't working out. And so I actually haven't had and I had really bad insomnia. So I was taking sleeping medication as well, like very intense sleeping medication that would like make me have I've always had very vivid dreams, but it kind of like put a stamp on them. And
Right.
so I with the help of my last psychiatrist, I weaned off of my last medication a year and a half ago. And I had previously been taking like the highest dose possible for like a man or a woman. And so weaning off of that, it's like notoriously a very bad withdrawal. It's called venlafaxine or Effexor. And it's notorious to have like a very bad withdrawal. And it really made me feel like a drug addict at times because the withdrawal from that drug is crazy. But I finally got off of it, and I think that's when I tried to explore more. I had already done shrooms and psychedelics by that, like at that time, but I was trying to explore more. Like, if I know that this makes me feel good, and if I know that there's like studies exploring this as far as my brain, I'm going to try to see if it will help me, because for a while after I wasn't taking any medication, I did feel a sense of clarity. Like, I felt like I was meeting myself for the first time in a while because I had taken medication for so long since I was a teenager, which is kind of like, even though it wasn't consistent, like there were years in between that I either didn't take them or I was taking them. But for the last couple, like for the end part of it, I was pretty consistent with this one particular drug. But yeah, I think.
And why did you wean off of it? It just wasn't working anymore?
It was, my psychiatrist recommended it to me at the time, and I don't know if I regret it or not. I can't, like, it kind of feels dangerous to say that I might regret it, because it's overwhelming to, like, think of going, like, the thought of going back on it. But at the time, she suggested it because she thought I was ready, but but then she ended up leaving her, like, I found out later that she was shutting down her practice and like moving. So it kind of felt like she just wanted me to like get over it. Like, and so it was just like a weird betrayal, and it kind of like made me really, I don't know, uncomfortable with our relationship and like our history. And like, if, I don't know, but I don't regret. I will say that I'm glad I am semi-medication free, because I do still take the occasional sleeping pill because I sometimes cannot fall asleep. But I'm trying my best to see if I'm able to function this way long term. And there are months that go by that I'm like, I don't know if this is a way to live. Like, maybe my brain just needs a chemical fix, you know, because right. But I'm figuring it out. Like, it's an ongoing process, and I'm kind of in the middle of it now. So I'm not really like, I don't know, I'm not really comfortable saying one way or the other how I feel about it. But yeah, I haven't really talked a lot about this to a lot of people. So this is like a very deep dive into that. But yeah.
I mean, I appreciate you sharing, Shereen. I really do. And I just wanted to give you this. Like, I relate completely. I've been, I have clinical depression and anxiety myself, also recovered anorexic. I don't know if anorexia was the eating disorder you struggle with, but I relate to you there. Growing up very sensitive, feeling like that sensitivity was not met with kindness or acceptance, and so shutting down was my sort of tool that I did, and it took me a long time to sort of start opening up again, into my 30s. Really, I'm 38 now, and so I think many of us, and including me, can relate to the sensitive kid who acts out, the sensitive kid who, who's struggling with depression but doesn't know how to deal with it or doesn't know the name, and that turns into anger. Like, that's a common story. And so, like, you're definitely not alone in that. And then I just wanted to say, like,
I appreciate that. I think like I didn't really mean to go on like a medication tangent, because I think my emotions are a little bit separate from that in a way, because before any medication, when I was a kid, I think maybe a lot of immigrant children or children of immigrants can relate to this, but like, emotional intelligence isn't really taught. and emotion, and trying to identify how you feel is kind of like a foreign concept. And so I always just kind of
Right.
felt unable to know the emotion I was feeling. I couldn't figure out how I felt most of the time. And I think, I'm Syrian American. My parents are Syrian and they're immigrants. And I think like the Middle Eastern community is, and just like immigrant communities in general, like mental health it wasn't at the time a very like talked about or like real thing. So if you were being sensitive, you just kind of like have to get over it and like stop being a baby and just be strong, and being strong meant being hard. And so I thought that's how I was supposed to be strong, just to be tough and rough and hard. And that's why I hardened myself pretty intensely. Because I didn't feel like I had any control, I went to my body and I developed a pretty intense eating disorder. And for me, it was kind of like a mix of all the disorders, to be honest. Like I had anorexia for a time. I overexercised for a period of time in college. But they were all just very unhealthy ways of dealing with my body and dealing with food and myself. But it was also just a way for me to like regain any kind of control that I thought I had lost. So, but it's still an ongoing process. Like I think once you have, a bad relationship with food or with yourself, it's really hard to repair. And I think it's an ongoing daily struggle even now. But yeah, I think what's been interesting about getting off medication, to go back to that, is that I think I'm a little bit more emotionally level now. Like I think the medication, I've realized now that it kind of made me a little bit more up and down and maybe more easily. I think I was more easily flared up, if I can, or like, that sounds like I have a rash. I was more easily like,
Do you have rash? I'm just kidding.
No, I was more easily like, I was more volatile, it felt like at the time in retrospect.
Yeah.
So that's been interesting. I think that alone has convinced me that maybe that wasn't either. Maybe I shouldn't be on medication, or maybe it wasn't the right medication.
Wasn't
but regardless,
the right one, yeah.
But regardless, this ongoing struggle of trying to understand my emotions is a really intense one, because I feel like a lot of the time. But because I'm like kind of by myself, especially now, most days, if not all days, I kind of just have to release it in different ways. And it could be art, it could be poetry, but, or filmmaking, but, I would be lying if I said I've been writing right now, even though I wish I was. I'm just not I wish I was someone that was like, could use this energy and be productive, but I haven't been able to harness that for some reason. And I hope I can in the future, but I don't know why it feels like my brain is turning into mush, and,
It's not. It's not. And however you're feeling during this time is okay. Like there's such a, I keep seeing all the like, oh, I'm being productive, or I'm writing this, one act play or whatever. And that's great. That's wonderful. But, if you don't, create the thing that you've always meant to be created during this time of quarantine, like that's okay. And it doesn't mean like your brain is mush. It doesn't mean you're not going to create the thing. It just means like you need a break right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm again, this has been a lesson in forgiveness to myself, like forgiveness to myself and being kind to myself, and like just being kind to the world and taking care of myself as a way to take care of the world. Like, like everyone's going through this trauma. Everyone is dealing with this insane time. This strange time. It's a very strange, weird time. And I'm trying to help the world in any way I can, and sometimes that means helping myself first, which is like putting on the oxygen mask before you put it on anyone else, kind of thing.
Yep.
And so, yeah, it's just, I don't know, it feels a little silly to care so much about self-care during this time, especially because there are so many bigger problems. But that's like literally all you can do. Like if you have the privilege and luxury of having a home and having any kind of income coming in, or any kind of like, if you're able to sustain yourself, then the least you can do is just take care of yourself. And for the benefit of everyone that's in the hospitals and everyone that's working and everyone that's putting their lives on the line, like the people, the cashiers in the grocery stores, like all these people are working overtime to make sure that you're okay. And so the least I could do is stay inside and like be by myself and like be kind to myself is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Well, it's you're right. But I would reposition that and say it's the first thing you should do. And the other things, like you said, it does allow us to, like, if I'm like, for me, if I'm not taking my antidepressants, if I'm not getting fresh air, like I am not going to be someone like Jessica is not going to want to be around me. I'm going to be snippy. I'm not going to be thinking holistically about the world and how we're connected. I'm not going to be thinking empathetically and wanting to and finding ways to give back to my local businesses and connect with others and spread empathy in the way that I can now virtually or, you know, through sending people postcards or whatever it may be. Like, I'm just not going to be in the right frame of mind. Right. So like we have to take care of ourselves first. And otherwise we're not going to like be in the right frame of mind to be able to think about that stuff.
That's a really good point. No, I think you're right. I think, yeah, that's a good thing to remember is that we have to just be kind to ourselves, to be kind to others.
Yeah. And kudos to you for like, you know, giving the medication sort of journey a shot. I think like many of us who have mental health, you know, illnesses or conditions or whatever, have gone through that. And I think you're being your best advocate in trying to figure out like, okay, is this thing right for me? Maybe medication's not right. Maybe I need to try something else. But like, I think it's important to figure that out because it's the hard thing is like, sometimes like you'll be on and I'm thinking that for myself right now, like I'm on this antidepressant called Vibrid and I feel like it's starting to wane in its impact. So it's like, you know, do I try another one? And it's hard. It's just a hard thing. So taking that on, I think is great. I think you should, you know, give yourself credit for that.
Thanks. It was definitely a struggle. It was like over a decade, if not like 12 years of my life. And I'm not medication free now. Again, like I'll take this. There's a sleeping pill called trazodone that I've been taking pretty much this entire time, on and off. There was a period that I was able to sleep without it, but I think just this past couple of months have been impossible to sleep for me. I can't. It's just my mind does not stop. But there was also a period of time because I was also diagnosed with like ADD for a while. So I was taking Adderall every day for a very long time. And I look back at that period and I was just unstoppable. I was just had so much energy. I was also very thin. It was just, I in retrospect, it's so interesting to me to look back at these like periods of my life in relation to the medication I was on, because it just puts it in different perspective to me. And I have nothing against medication. I think it really helped me for a long time. And maybe I will go back on a medication in the future once I'm able to see a psychiatrist or something, or like find someone that I trust. I think that's my biggest issue, is just like finding someone I trust. And like, I tried therapy and it wasn't really for me. I ended up, this is not something I'm proud of, but
why is that?
I ended up like ghosting my therapist, which is not healthy for anybody involved. But again, I think for me, this is going to sound so fucking absurd and I don't know, insufferable, but I realized when I was going to therapy, I was like kind of putting on a show. Like it was kind of like my stand-up act. Like it was like I would get so much validation when I made the therapist laugh, or when like I think there was one instance where he said I reminded him of Fleabag, and one, that means I'm very messed up.
What an honor.
But that means my life is a mess, and two, like that means I'm hilarious.
That's true.
But
right.
But like those were moments where I was just like, I kind of treated it as like as a quick fix of getting a validation more than me
performance.
It was just like instant gratification of like, I'm funny and I'm likable, and if I can make my therapist laugh, I'm fucking unstoppable. And then I just realized that that's just like not what therapy should be, and maybe he wasn't the right fit or whatever. But I ended up, because I'm not well sometimes, I just ended up ghosting him, which is not healthy. I would not recommend doing that. Be nicer to people. But I went into my avoidant tendencies and just kind of like ignored everything. So yeah, I think if hopefully this world kind of like handles the situation and we can go back to some type of normalcy, I'd be interested in seeking out either a therapist again or a psychiatrist that can like function as a therapist for me, because that's what my psychiatrist was in the past. I kind of like treated them like a therapist, as far as like how I would talk to them. But for now, I think I'm like, I want to say I'm pretty proud of myself for like making it this far, to be honest. Not to get too dark, but when I was a teenager, I never imagined myself older. Like I didn't think I'd make it to 30. Like I didn't think I just always thought I would either not be around by now or like
I relate to that so
kill
hard.
myself. To be I don't want to be flippant about that, but I just could never imagine myself older, and 30 isn't necessarily old, but at the time I was like, I won't be around by then.
Right.
So turning 30 was a very, I don't know, crazy moment for me, because a lot of the work I do is for like my younger self, like whether it's a film or a poem or like just kind of being the person I needed when I was a kid, like either in terms of representation or just in terms of just seeing yourself out there. And so I think of my younger self a lot when I'm working or when I'm writing and stuff. And this was a moment for me to just, like, I'm proud of myself for being here, and I'm proud of myself for making it. And like, if I'm being honest, I still can't really imagine myself older. Like it's like a really weird, it's interesting to me, because I know so many people that like want to get married and have kids and like imagine themselves like growing old with their partner. And I've never been able to do that. I've never been able to imagine myself old. And it kind of freaks me out if I really think about it too hard. But yeah, I'm proud of myself for being here, medication or not, and going on that journey. And I think I needed to go on that journey. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting aging because I didn't think I would, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I relate to that so much, as someone who also struggled with suicidal stuff and self-harm and things like that. I think that's it's a common place to sort of go back to this feeling that, like, I mean, I certainly thought it, like, feeling that, only the good die young, right? I'm not going to live to this long. And I thought that all the time as a young person. So I'm proud of you too. You made it.
Yeah, it was a very overwhelming experience to go through. I think it was for whatever, I mean, I think going through it by myself was kind of beautiful in its own way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out my fucking emotions, it's an ongoing thing.
And it will be ongoing. It's a lifelong thing. And I want to go back to the therapy thing for a second, because I just want to validate something. One, it's such a common experience, Shereen, to like feel like you're putting on a show or to feel like you have to perform in some way. Like I feel like that's everyone's first step in therapy, is like going through that experience, figuring out like what this is, like feeling anxious, feeling uncomfortable, feeling like I got to say the right thing. Like I went through that, and it just takes time.
Yeah, I think I'm not I'm not opposed to trying it again. I just like the fact that it even goes to my therapist is just like maybe a sign that I need a therapist.
Well, maybe not.
yeah.
Like the caveat also is that, I know that for me, therapy is great, and I feel very privileged in that I can, like insurance like covers part of it. Like that's amazing. But also therapy doesn't need to be for everyone either. Like it's to each their own.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm kind of leaning towards that for now, only because it was pretty pricey, I'm not gonna lie. And I have a different insurance now that's not as good. So if I was to go back to some type of doctor, I think I would probably lean towards someone that was like covered by something, which is kind of sad when we have to like make those choices based on what we can afford. But that's the reality, I guess, and it is what it is. But yeah, I don't know. What else should we talk about? I feel like I've talked about so many like technically medical things, which is not really like how I identify my emotional journey, but it is what it is, I guess.
Well, the emotional journey is messy, right? And like it is what it is the thing about emotional journeys is that it's messy, it's there's a lot of kind of sitting with our stuff and trying to figure out where they're coming from and why they're here. And the real sort of lesson or the real like challenge and exercise is like trying to figure out like, okay, why am I feeling this, and where did it come from, and how does it impact me as a person? Like these are things that like, I mean, I'm 38. I'm still learning about them and figuring them out, and probably will be for my lifetime. And I think like any amount of like, I'm not saying you're doing this, like I do this, like any amount of like me judging myself for not reacting in a certain way or whatever, like I just need to like tamp that down, because the reality is it's hard. It's hard work.
Yeah, it is hard work. And I think self-care isn't just about like a face mask or something. I think I've realized that like self-care is like pretty brutal, and I don't know if this is true, so if there's like someone that knows if this is true or not, feel free to call me out on it. But I read somewhere a while ago, like when I was a teenager, and I've just latched onto this notion for this whole time. But I read somewhere that like metamorphosis, like when a cocoon becomes a moth or a butterfly, I've read that the shedding of that skin is like a very painful experience. And again, maybe I just made that up in a dream, but I've really latched onto it because I think it's really true to remember that like change is really painful, and change is beautiful, but it's also a very excruciating process for a lot of us. And I think remembering that any type of growth and any type of development is not pretty all the time. It's on the inverse, it's like pretty hard, and it's pretty I don't know, it's painful. And so I think remembering that, absolutely. And just if the entire point of life is like just self-growth and self-improvement and this idea of like individuation, if you're like a Carl Jung fan like myself, but if that's the point of existing, then you have to accept that it's not going to be just a fun time. I think I think it's hard. It's really, really hard to be a human. And
it is hard. Yeah. And I think that's whether the, butterfly cocoon analogy is true or not, it's a perfect analogy in that you're right. Like change is hard. Oftentimes we glean the most beauty and sort of insight when we experience pain, right? In Buddhism, they talk a lot about that. And it is hard. And also, Shereen, and I'll give you this, the thing that I'm working on in my life, because I used to be very fatalistic, very kind of, I'm still sometimes a little fatalistic, but very like, I guess feeling like life is meaningless, and it just kind of like the weird sort of depressive stuff that you get into.
Oh yeah.
But the reality is like we can hold the pain, right? We can hold that sort of like change and that perspective, but we can also hold the joy, and they're not like diametrically opposed. We can hold those things simultaneously.
Oh, we haven't even touched on my existential crisis, aka my life. Yeah, I mean, like my existential dread, I feel like it's unparalleled. So I really relate to those feelings of like feeling like nothing is like, what's the point? Like even the other night, I was lying in my bed wide awake. Like, what is the point of waking up tomorrow? Like, what is the point of me doing this all over again? I don't get it. I don't get why I'm here. And my mind can just start spiraling because I've dealt with these feelings of existential dread or existential like questioning for most of my conscious life, like if not like all of it. I've just always been questioning the purpose. And the purpose is that there might not be a purpose. You just have to keep going and like find little joys and find the things that I don't know, make you feel alive. And it's hard for me to say that because it's not hard for it's hard for me to feel alive sometimes. But I'm trying my best, and yeah, I really relate to those feelings of existential questioning and dread because I think depression kind of really, at least mine, and it sounds like maybe yours, kind of leans really heavily into that realm. And it's really hard to talk yourself out of it and to convince yourself that like my depression is getting the better of me. Like I'm like, what really helps me time and time again is nature, and just it's kind of hard to do that now, obviously, but going out and seeing the beauty of the world, and it's usually tied to my family. Like I really love hiking with my mom, for example, or like I'll send her a photo of like a jasmine that I've picked on a walk or something. Or so for me, there's just this feeling of remembering that nature is beautiful and remembering that I'm a part of nature. Like you are a part of this beauty, like whether or not you see it that way. And just reminding myself that I love people, and that I remind myself of how warm I feel when my mom or my dad hug me. And even though those seem like really transient, strange, or just small moments, those are usually the moments that like calm me down, or remind me that like
they're real.
I should stick around, you know? So yeah, there was a moment.
You should stick around.
Yeah, I mean, I will. I will. But there was a scary moment when I was on shrooms. I'm like hesitant to even share this part, but this is how my brain worked, I guess. Because I didn't have reception for a long time when I was in the forest, I had this feeling of like, if I die somehow right now, if like a car hits me, or if I just get lost and no one finds me, like, will my family, will they think this was a suicide attempt? Like, will they think this is how I wanted to go? Like, I couldn't stay anymore because honestly, like I've talked about it before, and I've had my ideations, and pretty heavy ideations, and it really made me very sad and very scared because I've walked myself back from those ideations because I've realized I want to stay. And that was another moment of realizing I do want to stay. But it was also really scary because it made me realize like I don't want people to think I don't want to be here, even though like I mean, like, I think that's why I cope so much with, like, humor. Like, I'll make dumb jokes on Twitter, or I'll make, like, my method of coping with my sadness is usually comedy. I think people sometimes think I'm, like, flippant or, like, I don't know, nonchalant about mental health. Or at least, like, those things. But it's genuinely the only way I can cope and like keep going. But there was a scary moment where I realized like like it was just, I think it was a moment that I needed to remind myself that I wanted to stay. But also a moment that I don't know. I don't know why I brought it up, but it was just, but it was just
It was an important moment.
Yeah. I don't know. It was just kind of
Yeah.
scary for like. I will say that sometimes if you take too many shrooms, they get scary, but then they get good again. So just have some faith.
I mean, I relate to all of that, and thank you for sharing that. It is scary, and but the reality is, and I've been there before. You know, a doctor basically said, you know, your heart's going to stop, and I was like, okay. Do I want to keep going? And I realized eventually, it took me a long time to realize, but eventually I did. But the reasons why are people, right? Our connections are the beauty of nature and that feeling of connection and the impact, right? Like looking at you as someone who I don't know very well, but I see that you're putting out beautiful work into the world and beautiful art, right? Through poetry, through filmmaking. Like these are things the world needs, because like art is another avenue into empathizing with each other, right? Through building compassion for another person's experience. You talk about creating art for your younger self. Like that's a compassionate effort in and of itself, but you just creating it, putting it out there allows people in. And I think that's a beautiful gift, and
Thanks.
the world needs it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a mix of making stuff for my younger self and then making other people feel less alone, I think I've realized. So that's been an interesting journey as like a creative person dealing with their brain, because you get both. You get people you remind yourself that you're not alone by reminding others that they're not alone. So yeah, I don't know. It's been an interesting journey.
Yeah. Yeah. That's life.
Yeah.
Right? I do have a couple questions here from Instagram.
Yeah.
This
let's
one is
hear
from
it.
at Amateur Badass. Nice.
Nice
Instagram
I like
name.
them. I like them. They're maybe they're. Can I say internet friends? I guess we're internet friends. Yeah, I like them. They're supportive of me.
Yeah. They said, can you speak on gender and sexuality and how it may tie into or affect? I mean, this question is very specific to this person, and how it may tie into or affect non-binary Mexican who often feels like, quote, "What am I?" due to having been raised hyper-Catholic and having been socialized to hyper-masculinity. You don't have to speak to his specific situation, or I don't know how they identify. I apologize, Amateur Badass, but just on the gender and sexuality thing and how that sort of pertains to your identity and your sort of mental health.
Well, I can relate to what they're getting at. I think so I was raised Muslim. I don't really believe in anything anymore. I haven't for a long time. When I was 12, I told my mom I didn't believe in God. She started crying. Then I kept my thoughts to myself. But I identify as queer. I admittedly don't really like labels, but I think queer is the most encompassing and fluid one that I relate to, and that's why I kind of like, if someone asks, I'll tell them I'm queer. But I've been attracted to women since I can remember. It kind of maybe started when I was like in middle school, maybe early high school, but I had so much shame around it because I was supposed to be this good Muslim girl, and I don't know, there's just like the trajectory of my life that my parents wanted for me was that I would marry a Muslim man and like be happy, and that this was not something I ever wanted for myself. And so I had a lot of shame about who I was attracted to, and I didn't tell anybody for a very long time. And it also kind of, because I was raised kind of strict and sheltered, and I had a very interesting relationship with my own body and my own sexuality, and I call myself a late bloomer because I guess that's like the easiest thing to describe it as, but I just like didn't understand my sexuality for a long time. And not just like who I was attracted to, but also just like myself as a sexual being. Like it just like I was like kind of disgusted with myself, to be honest. I was repulsed with my body and my genitals, and I just like didn't. I was really frustrated with myself because I couldn't understand the appeal of, like, I know I was attracted to people, but I was also confused with how I felt about my body. So, and I think that was a mixture of growing up sheltered and growing up strict, and also just like feeling like an alien and not understanding humanity. Like I remember when I first discovered porn, I really wasn't watching it. Like I never, I mean, like maybe this is too much information, but like I wasn't masturbating. I was just kind of studying it. Like I was just kind of studying porn, like to see this is what humans do. And that sounds like very, I don't know, weird to admit, but like, yeah, I wasn't like watching it being like turned on or masturbating or anything. I was really just
Did you feel
like,
shame about it when you watched it?
Yeah, I mean, like, of course there was an element of shame, but only because, like, I knew that, like, if my mom walked in, she'd be like, what the hell are you doing? But it was more so for me, I just wanted to understand what people were doing, like, what people were talking about. Like, I wanted to, I felt like I was missing this big joke that everyone was in on, and I just couldn't understand. And that's how I felt about, like, relationships and intimacy for a very long time. And I'm 30 now, and I don't really feel like I've had like a quote like real relationship. So it's been an ongoing battle of trying not to put myself in this box of like there is no such thing as a quote real relationship, but there is no such thing as a trajectory that makes sense. And I think as far as the question is concerned, to bring it back, I think sexuality is such a fluid thing, and even progressives or even people that are allies, they will look to put people in boxes without even meaning to. Like I've even struggled with like, because I know representation is important, but I also hate having to always remind people that I'm like queer. So I think like I would love to be able to exist and just love whoever I love and have it not be a question, but our world really loves labels. And so I think it's really hard, but just trying to exist with yourself and if that means you're gender fluid, if that means you're non-binary, and if those are labels that you identify with, that's beautiful and amazing. But if they're not, and you still kind of feel like you fall on the spectrum, that's totally okay too. And I think we have to remind ourselves that we're living in an age that really loves this like short, like to summarize yourself in a Twitter bio or an Instagram bio, and that maybe you feel the need to put like, I'm Syrian, I'm queer, and I'm vegan, and I'm all these things, and I'm a director, all in the same little sentence. But you really don't have to do that. Like you can just exist and be yourself, and don't buy into the need that you have to project all the time unless you want to. I think that's what's really frustrating to me about sexuality in the new age, is that there's almost this need to constantly be projecting and reminding people of who you are. And that's really overwhelming for me because I just want to exist and be attracted to people and to love people and just like not have it be a question. But at the same time, I do really value representation. So I will identify as like a proud queer Syrian woman. And for a while I toyed with the idea of like this gender fluid, like fluidity. But that was, I think in retrospect, that was only because I was so uncomfortable being a woman. And I'm still like dealing with that. Like I think I'm becoming more comfortable in my body as I age, but there was a while there that like I was so uncomfortable with identifying as being a woman because I didn't understand what that meant. I just like didn't. In high school I developed boobs and I would wear very tight sports bras to like flatten them down. I hated my body. I hated the way I looked and how womanly I was. And so those feelings I thought meant that I was like, oh, maybe I'm I'm fluid. Like maybe that means I'm fluid. But really, for me anyway, and this is my experience, I was like self-hating, and uncomfortable with my body, and like I still have those feelings of like not being comfortable as a woman. But God, I'm going on so many tangents, so many fucking rambles. But what I'm trying to say is that
I love it all. I love it all.
what I'm trying to say is that self-acceptance is really, really hard, and it's a daily thing. You can't just like clean the floor once and expect it to be clean forever. Like it's an ongoing thing. You always have to hold yourself accountable for your own growth, and it's really hard to grow up in a family or grow up in an environment that isn't that shames you for being yourself, whether it's because of who you love or how you identify. And then I think I would hope that as we become more independent in ourselves, we're able to leave those environments and grow for ourselves, and then hopefully come back and educate people, even though it's not our responsibility to educate, but sometimes that's just like the burden that comes on the queer community, is just like education.
Right.
But I think mental health, dealing with all that, I'm sure you can imagine, is really, really difficult. So I've touched on like self-hatred or questioning, and for me it was really, really hard because I was dealing with depression at the same time, and I think it was very related because it kind of just contributed to this feeling that I couldn't control my world, because it was not the world that I wanted.
Yeah.
So I think I don't know if I
Very well
answered that
said.
question. I don't know if I answered that question or if I just kind of started. I feel like this quarantine or self-isolation is truly a test of how much I've forgotten how to have a conversation, because I don't even remember the question. I don't even remember where I am.
Hey,
Oh my god.
Shereen, you're doing amazingly. Okay. I think you answered the question beautifully. And I was just gonna sort of say to Amateur Badass that, you know, to pile on what Shereen has said, it's hard, and I am of course a white cisgendered male of great privilege, and I will just say this. To the question of when am I? You're a feely human. You're a human just as we all are, and I think it's such a, you know, identity is such it's like a double-edged sword in a way, and especially when it pertains to sexuality, gender, mental health. It's both affirming. It's both like, okay, I am this thing, and that brings you some sense of who you are, but it's also right. It's also like putting your own self in a box, and you don't want that too. So I think it's like I think it's such a human thing to be fighting both of those structures always. And you know, it's just about acceptance. Like you said, it's just about accepting for who you are, for just being human, and that's what we all share for sure.
Yeah, I really appreciate Amateur Badass for submitting a question or even just like being interested, because I think I think just reminding yourself that you're beautiful just as you are, and you can just exist as your own being. You don't have to be anything but you. And dealing with questioning yourself and your sexuality on top of being depressed or on top of having like mental health questions, I think it's so normal. It's so you are so normal for feeling the way you feel. And especially as like a person of color, that's a whole nother layer of trauma and of processing that you have to go through. But it makes you so uniquely you, and I would never want you to be anything but that. Like I would never want to be anything but myself, because I know that I am uniquely me. And even with my idiosyncrasies or I don't know if that's the right word I'm looking for, but even with my like neuroses, I'm glad that I am the way I am, because it's a journey of like self-love. Like especially now, like I love kind of being with myself. I love my own company. And it's hard to say that most of the time, but I think that's all you can hope for. So just be kind to yourself and love yourself as much as you can. I know it's really cliche, but I really do mean it. It's just like you're not alone in feeling the way you feel. It's so valid. And you are just, I don't know. Amateur Badass in particular is a beautiful person. So I just hope that they feel beautiful.
Yeah, and they are. And thank you for saying that, Shereen. And Amateur Badass, from me, I see you, I accept you, I cherish you, I champion your growth. We're here for you. We do have one more question. This one's from at PD Thorn _IG. We talked about this a little bit, but maybe we can unpack some more of it. He, I believe, says, what tools and exercises does she use to recenter herself in distress, and what would she suggest for others during a time like this? Okay, well,
I guess they've changed a bit during the past couple of weeks. I have realized how important moving my body is. When I am, there was a couple months last year that I slept most of the day. I didn't move. My body ached all the time. I wasn't moving at all. It was not very healthy. I was in a very bad spot. And I'm very proud of myself now for realizing the tools since that time to make myself feel better. And right now it's at-home workouts. I know it sounds silly, but I'll put on a workout and just the number like 28 minutes or 26 minutes or even 31 minutes, I can be like, yeah, okay, I can dedicate half an hour of my day to just moving my body, and every time I do that, afterwards I feel better. Even if it's just like 30 minutes of yoga or 30 minutes of just moving my body around, I just always have my mat laid out just to remind myself to like stretch and move my body and center myself and be thankful for my body. And I have the privilege of being able to be able-bodied, and I remind myself of that every time I move. And so that's been one of them, just moving my body. In different circumstances, I would say like nature and like hiking and stuff. For me, that was a huge source of centering myself, is going out into nature and being in the wilderness and hiking. I love hiking, and I love just being in a forest. I would love to be in a forest all the time, and just on a mountain. But because I can't do that, I will go on walks. I will go responsibly. I think you should wear a mask if you have one, or there's a lot of tutorials out there about making masks, or just like wearing a bandana or something. And during these walks, I want you to try to just not have your phone on you unless you're taking photos of nature. That's my one exception to the rule. I will take photos of stuff when I'm walking. I'll appreciate nature. I'll send some flowers to my mom, or I even FaceTimed her one time when I was walking, and I showed her some of my neighborhood and some of the trees that were blooming. So I encourage you, when you are going on these walks, which I think you should go on if you're able to, just try to look around. And I really love walking like an hour before the sun sets, because then you can see the sunset during your walk, and it is beautiful. It is so I can never get over a good sunset. The sky is just gorgeous. So I would encourage you to just try to be present and try to appreciate the little things as much as you can. What was his original question? His original question was, how do I
just center yourself in distress?
Yeah, so I guess those are more like active things you can do, but when I'm anxious in bed, I will there's a moment I remember, like, try to think of things like moments that made you feel calm. Like, I imagine myself like floating on my back in the middle of a lake sometimes, and I'll put on like some classical music when I go to sleep, and I'll just like try to imagine I'm back at that lake, and just trying my best to calm my mind. And I guess for me, when as I'm talking about this, a lot of the things I do are kind of more active. Like I'll either like start dancing to music or something, just something that will, I think it's what I need, something to just occupy myself. And something that like will make my body move, because when I'm very depressed, I don't move and it makes me feel even worse. So, little things like finding a good song, playing it on repeat, dancing until I feel better. Like the dumbest moves, like just like doing whatever your body tells you to do. It feels better every time you do it. I promise. And also just like to be like a cliched creative person, just like if you are compelled to write down your thoughts or to journal, I try to write down my dreams when I wake up. Or even just like I have like notes in my phone about potential ideas I have for poems or for films or whatever, and I'll revisit them sometimes. But just like kind of just creating without any pressure, or if you feel compelled to paint or anything, I think occupying your mind and your hand at the same time is a really therapeutic thing. And so I would encourage you to do that too. I guess recently that's what's been working for me. Movement and centering myself, and especially with stuff like yoga and dancing and stuff, is just things to kind of like move my body and feel good. And yeah. Well, I guess and also like right now, if you're able to cook yourself a healthy meal. I think cooking has been a very interesting experience for me, because I've been cooking most days, if not all days. And good food will always make me feel good. So
yeah, I relate to all of those. And I would add, just for me, like it's such a unprecedented. We keep hearing that word. It's unprecedented, right? This time. And what has helped me is just to keep some semblance of a routine, right? Not allowing myself to just like sleep in forever, or like stay in jammies all day, whatever it may be. Like adding some routine, make sure I'm like doing the little things like washing my face in the morning, and connecting with people on Marco Polo and things like that, like making sure I'm doing the things that like I would typically do, right?
Yeah, I think
because otherwise it can
it's
just feel
good.
so untethered.
Yeah, I have to be honest with you. I've been sleeping in a lot. And that's okay.
Nice.
But
that's okay.
I think routine is important though. I didn't touch on that because my routine has been different every day, but the constant thing about it is that I'm moving. I think that's what I am proud of myself for implementing, is that I wake up, I do some type of movement, whether it's just 30 minutes of stretching or 30 minutes of anything. Like, you have the time to dedicate at least 5 minutes, 10 minutes to just like moving your body, appreciating your body, being present in your body. And I just think, I don't know, our bodies are beautiful machines, and they need upkeep, or they're just going to kind of give out, and they eventually, and they're aging whether you like it or not. So if you're able to,
and it's where we hold all of our stresses and anxieties in our bodies.
Exactly. So yeah, I think I have a lot of anxiety without me even trying when I'm going to sleep. So I think implementing like a sleeping kind of ritual has been helpful for me, whether it's like washing my face, putting on moisturizer, putting on some good classical music to help me fall asleep. I've been using a weighted blanket recently. It doesn't always work for me, but at times when I'm stressed, it can do the trick. And just trying to calm down my mind, and lighting a candle or Palo Santo is like my favorite scent ever. So if you have any Palo Santo, just like burn that and like smell that, and like smells are very grounding. So I would say, if I missed anything in my little spiel, I would say appreciate like aromatherapy, like whether it's like lighting a candle, making coffee, like enjoying the smell of the coffee, enjoying the smell of I don't know, the
your dog's farts.
exactly. Just being present, going outside, appreciating the smell, like literally smelling the roses. Like I tell you, it is a beautiful experience. Like I literally will smell the flowers that I pass because they're beautiful, man. I love a good. I love a good nature walk.
Yeah, me too. Well, thanks for those questions, listeners. Appreciate it so much. Let's start wrapping up. Shereen, we always kind of wrap up the show talking about empathy heroes. So people in our lives who are empathetic, have good hearts, could be friends, people we know personally, could even be like characters from books, what have you. I will go first to give you a moment to think about your empathy hero. My empathy hero this week is my friend Becky and Norm's kid, Charlie. She's amazing and so delightful. And yesterday I was doing just fulfillment for this little crowdfunding that I did. And Char and Becky pitched in, helped out, and Charlie was very just happy to be there and so sort of thrilled by like the organizational aspect of the sort of fulfillment process. And it was just nice to have her there, and I really appreciated her helping, and it made me feel loved and supported. So Char is my empathy hero this week.
That's so beautiful. That's really beautiful. Kids can be a joy sometimes. They're just so
absolutely.
They're so unfiltered.
Yeah.
I mean, the first people I can think of are my parents, to be honest. I really appreciate them for growing with me all this time and accepting me, and they're very supportive of me now, and they have been for a while. And my mom especially is just the most. I mean, both my parents are just the most generous, kind people, and I really think they. Even though they might not understand how sad I can get, even though they might not understand the depth of my emotional reservoir or the depth of my existential dread, I really appreciate them for trying, and I really appreciate them for accepting me in all my moments of weakness. And it's just they're beautiful people, and I'm so lucky to be their daughter. I feel like that every time I think about them. I am so blessed that I don't believe it. I don't know if I believe in a higher power. I don't know if I believe in any of that, but they are just perfect. And I feel so lucky to have been raised by them and to have them in my life, because even though every teenager and even when I was in college, I had my issues with them. After college, I had so many arguments with my dad about what I wanted to do, and I not feeling supported or whatever. And you need all those really tough moments, I think, to grow with someone. As we said earlier, like growing with other people, I think, is the most telling sign of self-growth.
Yeah.
But I think growing with my parents has been a beautiful experience, and I feel like their empathy to me, even in moments that they might feel like fish out of water, especially as immigrants, and especially as people that have grown up in a culture completely different than this, I love them for it. I love them for loving my work. I love them for just accepting all the weirdness that comes with that. Like, they're my heroes all the time, forever.
That's beautiful, and I'm so grateful to hear that. I'm not a parent, but I imagine it's very hard to be a parent, and they sound like such loving and accepting people, so I'm just happy for that.
They're very special, and like, I'm not going to pretend that they know everything about me. They 100% don't. I'm still guarded with some things, but I've maintained a balance of what our relationship, and it's as my parents, they've seen me at like maybe my mentally worst moments, and definitely my health like the worst moments as far as my health is concerned, like physically, and yeah, they're very supportive of my journey, and that's all I can really hope for. And that's what empathy is just trying to put yourself in someone's situation and be kind to them. And I don't know, it's empathy is a hell of a drug, man.
It's empathy is a hell of a drug. It's also hard. It's hard, you know. I've been I recently done some workshops at some local colleges and on empathy, and the reality is that empathy is truly a thing that we need to practice. Because like thinking about like empathy, like I did an episode a couple episodes ago about empathy right now, and you know, thinking about people responding in ways that maybe we wouldn't, right? Like seeing people respond by like hoarding or things like that. And the reality is like, you know, they may be operating out of fear or panic or anxiety. And like, we need to be compassionate toward those people too. Yeah.
That's just it's a fear response, and it's unsettling because it's putting other people at like a disadvantage and at risk. But,
right.
But they won't change if you're angry, you know. They won't have compassion for other people around them because they're acting out of fear, and we have to be kind for them to be kind.
Right.
So I mean, it's hard to do, especially because like a lot of those people are objectively infuriating. Like, but that's all we can really do. We just have to be the examples of how we would want to be treated, you know? So, I don't know. Yeah. So thank you so much for having me. I really apologize. Not really apologize, but I am like low-key apologizing for rambling so much.
Don't apologize.
I rambled so much.
No, I loved it.
Oh, no.
I loved it. And, but before, let the listeners, Shereen, know where they can connect with you.
You can connect with me on social media. I'm on Instagram at SheroHero, SheeroHero, and then on Twitter it's SheroHero666. Because you know,
Mark of the beast.
And
your favorite number.
Yeah, exactly. And what was I going to say? I have a website, Shereen Lani, ShereenLani.com. It just has all my work, my short films and stuff, and hopefully I'll have some new stuff on there in the near, not too distant future. But yeah, connect with me on the internet. Follow me on my socials. I have a podcast called Ethnically Ambiguous that I co-host, where we talk about being a person of color, and we interview people of color and their experiences in the U.S. and being children of immigrants, and it's a fun time. So yeah, I encourage you to just follow me along on my journey. It's fun here. I'll try my best. Oh, and I have a poetry book if you guys want to read my poetry.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I have a poetry book on Amazon.
I'll make sure all those are linked in the show notes for sure. Yeah. Well, Shereen, thank you so much for being a part of this. You weren't rambling. I think you were very eloquent, and I appreciate you sharing.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you having this platform for emotional talk, because this is all I really wanted as a kid. Just a place to put all my emotions. So
me too.
I'm really grateful that you have this platform and that you invited me onto it. It makes me feel really good inside. Thank you.
Aw. Yeah, you're welcome. And listeners, as I always say, I'm here, you're here, we're here together on this wayward, overwhelming, awe-inspiring pale blue dot. We have each other. It's you, me, empathy.